I'm going to text him quickly and see if he's available. I'll be right back.
Hey. How are the rest of you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. You can't see me though, can you?
No, just your name.
That's a good thing. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go.
Sure.
Look at my messy office, man.
It's like Nathan was trying to come to the building to join the
Oh.
meeting.
Oh,
Okay. Bryce, every time I see you pop up on this, it freaks me out because I work with a Bryce Wilcox every day. Just a
that,
different-
yeah. He's the one when I read in the newspaper, he got his Eagle Scout. Devastated because I thought I was the only Bryce Wilcox in the world. He's a little younger than me, I think.
Yeah.
That's a nice view behind you, Tracy.
He lives
Wish I
in
was there.
Lake. Been so.
Okay, Nathan's trying to log in. I'll forward him the email.
Hey, I see Beverly's on. Can I ask Beverly a personal question? Beverly, you mind talking to me? Maybe she doesn't want to talk to me.
Maybe she doesn't know how to unmute.
Oh,
Did I do it?
There you
so
go.
Beverly, I saw on the application for this rezone that you live on Peachtree Lane or Peachtree Drive in Centerville.
I do.
So do you know the sewing machine guy?
I sure do. I've been a neighbor of his for 40 years, over 40 years.
Okay.
He loves
My wife's there about every 6 months or so, either getting something repaired or something tuned up. So
Yeah. Neil's a good guy. He's keeps about, I think, everybody in northern Utah and other places sewing machines working.
yeah,
He's 2 houses
amazing.
down from me.
amazing
What's his-
shop. Amazing shop he's got there though. That's
He does.
Yep.
Yep.
What's his name?
Neil Ewan. Yep. Yep. He's definitely the expert on sewing machines, probably in the Intermountain West.
Is it
So-
EWEN, Beverly?
IUND.
IUND?
He says it Ewand.
Huh.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's a good
There's-
neighbor.
I can't think. I doubt there's a machine he hasn't dealt with in years, and
Yep.
for years.
I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
Well, I just happen to have about 7 or 8 sewing machines that need some love.
Oh dear. Well, he'll give you the the work you need.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, how are you? Sorry I'm late.
Good. That's all right. Bryce is here. Everybody's here on the Planning Commission.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
All right. So we don't have a pledge because we don't have a flag. But does anyone want to volunteer to do a reverence tonight?
I can't. I will.
Who's I? Nathan?
Bryce.
Bryce. Okay. Thanks, Bryce. So have you all had a chance to look over the agenda? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. We just have the one item And that's the request for a rezone for H.L. Parker Farms, approximately 52 acres. So we will discuss that and take it from there. The other thing that I wanted to chat about, because I mean, obviously the agenda is tiny, but the other thing that I wanted to talk about was our general plan progress that we're making on it. Last month when we were together, each of us had got an assignment to chair a committee. I understand Jacob's not going to be able to help us because of his time constraints with employment, but I wondered if any of you had anything to report that you made progress on.
I could go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have 6 people that I've got over the last month to be on that committee, and
Okay.
have spoken with about 12 people. We plan on speaking with many more, but we've gathered some ideas and that kind of thing. So we're in the beginning phase. So we've got it off the ground.
Okay, good.
We have some discussion and some excitement.
So you're making some notes and
Yes.
writing down their comments so that we have them, so we can refer to them.
Yes.
So Bryce is doing the commercial zoning areas and Main Street concept, those types of things for Hooper City. Nathan, any progress on what you were doing?
Yeah, I haven't made any actually, so I need to get on the ball a little bit. I guess the next step, when it comes to parks and recreation, we'd probably need to get a map of I mean, we have the zoning maps. I don't know if there's any other maps showing the parks, etc. I guess I can look at them more carefully.
Tracy Allen is going to provide each of the commissioners with a large, how big, Tracy, like building plan size?
Yeah,
Map?
we call it D size, 24 by 36. That's probably
Perfect.
what it'll all be. So yeah.
So he's going to get each of us a copy of that. So there'll be 5 of us, and it will be updated as of today, Tracy, or
Well,
the most recent changes?
yeah, except I won't be able to do today's action until the council actually hears it, but it'll be up until today anyway. So.
Okay. Okay.
So Mary, I've got a question for you. So as far as getting that together, do you want me to get a city council member involved on that? Just citizens involved on that? And then as far as parks and recreation, I mean, we need to look at existing parks and recreation, but also budget wise, where do we go to get that information, see if it's in the budget, see how that works, and if it can be handled in parks and recreation?
Right now, I don't know that budget is as big a concern as what is our wishes and our dreams and desires for Hooper. So it's a public opinion kind of thing. So I would like you to go out and talk to multiple people like Bryce has been doing and get their opinions, get their feedback. And I would like you to have 2 or 3 other people on your committee that will also do the same thing, so that we're reaching out to as many citizens and get their input. And then we'll take that information and report it into the advisory committee that we're forming, that will be formed. And then the advisory committee will have that input from the citizens. And then we're going to go to the Wasatch Front Regional Council, to our coordinator there, and that person's going to help us kind of formulate things. And then we'll go back out to the citizens and say, we got this idea and this one, and we'll do some fine tuning. And eventually we'll come up with some plans that we can get the city council to enjoy. But at this point in time, and I'd kind of like to get everyone's feedback kind of by the end of the month. If you can get people on your committees to go out and talk to community citizens and get the feelings on how many parks do they want to have? How many, what kind of recreation do we want to have? What's their vision for Hooper? I think that's a wonderful question to ask every person that you talk to. What is your vision of Hooper? So that we can see what they, what they're thinking.
What they want. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you imagine with this whole, do you think there's going to be major changes to the general plan? I think we have a pretty good plan right now. Do you imagine there's going to be major changes to this plan coming up?
That's hard to tell. I'd like to see some more specifics in the plan, like specifically where would we put another park if we had one?
Okay.
What would that park have for amenities? What kind of recreational things would people like to see in Hooper? I'm to go out to the extreme, you could even compare it to Roy City Complex. Not that I would ever see that happen here, but that's what I'm saying. Ask people what their dreams are. What's their vision for Hooper?
Okay.
And how, what kind of parks do we need? And then once we have that feedback, then we can refine it and say, okay, well, we can afford to put in one park, or we can afford to put in 3 parks, taking into account maintenance and all of that kind of stuff. And do we have to staff up? City has to staff up for that. But right now we're at grassroots. We want citizen input. Okay.
Got it.
Amanda, you were working on building a committee to talk about future zoning. What areas would be what? How are you coming with your committee?
Coming along pretty good. I've reached out to several members of the community. I've tried to get a diverse group together to gather some input from. Some of them I've received input from already, and others I'm still waiting to hear back. But I think it's coming along nicely, and we should have a good sampling of what people are wanting for our city. So.
Just be gentle of your critique of the existing document, because some dumb engineer had to write it about 19 years ago, so because nobody else would. So
it goes both ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
just say it goes both ways. We'll be gentle as long as you are too.
Oh yeah.
Is Mary still there? I don't see her
We
anymore.
lost her.
Okay, it must have been something I said.
She's dark. Yeah, you offended her.
I know, I'm good at that.
Yeah, she went black.
I can see Mary.
Can you?
Yeah, but it's frozen.
Yeah, I don't even see
Yeah,
her.
she dropped off. We'll have to wait for her to come back.
So who was tackling the affordable housing? Which was that you, Jacob, or?
I think that from what I understand, I think they've already kind of addressed that, and it's
Okay.
with the amendments they've made already.
Okay.
As far as I understand, I don't think we have somebody over that particular area.
If Trump gets his way, he's trying to drop all of the Obama regulations, so that may not even be a concern down the road.
That'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah, Mary's frozen in time. See her, but she's not moving.
I'm not sure what my assignment was. But at this point in time, I don't have full-time employment, and so I'm trying to dig up freelance work and just trying to figure other things out. So I asked Mary if I could be excused from leading a committee right now.
That's right. I apologize. Yeah, I heard her say that. So
Yeah, no worries.
One of the things that I think Mary was emphasizing just now, I'll just comment on, because I've had the discussion with planning commissions multiple times, and there just hasn't been enough interest to take up the torch and run with it. But you know, I continue to kind of get, you know, feedback that, you know, the city is every subdivision looks the same. You know, all it is just a bunch of cookie cutter homes and things. And, you know, right now that's basically all that's required. That's all that's in the plans. That's all that's in the ordinances. And I mentioned again last night in staff meeting, if you want something more creative, we have to start and plan it and get it documented so we can, as a staff, we can enforce it. You know, if you don't like the way things are going, then, and maybe people do, I don't know. I just hear a lot of times that, you know, is a Hooper just going to build out just nothing but end-to-end homes? Is there anything else planned or intended? And so that's kind of what I think we're kind of at a crossroads here. We've been a city 20 years, and so what will the next 20 years look like? And that's what I'm hoping that will come out of this as part of your efforts. So,
Tracy, what's been the feedback from the developers that you talk to? I know some of these developments get going down the process and finalized, and then the developer comes back. At least they've told me on a side note that they can't even afford to develop like half acres. Like, we've got to wait to change this from half acres to a quarter or a third, et cetera, because we can't afford to build on it. Is that really true? Are you seeing that?
I don't know. I hear that, and I think I've been hearing that since the very first day we incorporated. It you know, it is the thing that's really changed is the upfront cost of the ground. You know, what's being asked per acre, and if it gets all that's happening, I think is just getting pushed onto the you know, incoming property owners, and right. But I don't know. Are they blaming us or something that's happening in our city for that, or
not blaming anything? They just basically said the profit's not there if I have to make these a half acre, so I'm going to wait till the master plan gets open, and hopefully it'll go to a third or a quarter. Which, one, I personally don't want to see happen, and two, if it's a natural incentive not to move here for contractors to come unless they have deep pockets, then I'm kind of okay with that. Honestly, I just didn't know what your opinion was. If that's true, it's too expensive. They can't get their money out of the property if they're half acres. Because yes, people will pay it if they truly want to be there.
Well, we have. I mean, you know, we have one right now that we're battling over some grading issues. Rather than create grading the way we'd like it to have, the developer keeps asking if we can put in these backyard drain systems that we don't maintain, and neither do the people that move in. And we're saying, look, just
Did we lose Tracy?
I didn't know if I was the only one that lost him.
They're dropping like flies.
I
know. Whoever talked.
I said nothing that time. So,
you know, I will tell you, this subdivision that we just finished with,
You're muted, Tracy.
okay, did you lose me for a minute?
Yeah, we did.
I mean, this subdivision we just did with Beverly Bailey and Scott Carlson, the you know, the H.L. Parker Farm, the legacy subdivision. I mean, they came in and they, you know, they did things right. They, you know, they stepped up, made you know, did all the improvements without, you know, a lot of hassle and things. And yeah, they were on an existing street, but they didn't have to build. They have to build a stub street. So I don't know. Maybe they can tell you what it's like. You know, I don't really know for sure. So
I agree with Nate. I really don't want to see us go to even smaller lots just to accommodate the needs of a developer. I feel like we need to be representative of what the citizens out here want. And I think, at least the feedback that I've gathered so far, I feel like most people have that same view from what I'm seeing so far, that they don't really want to see smaller lots. And from what I don't know, I mean, we'd have to do some research, but the feedback that I've received, I feel like Hooper, as far as our impact fees and things like that, I think we're on the lower end. I think that's why it's been a desirable location for developers to come out here. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see, I guess, how we match up with surrounding communities that have similar landscape.
I
Well,
think
I guess we could increase the impact fees and put them towards parks, recreation, or whatever else we want done to the city. I guess if that's something we want to do, and like Man was saying, if a half acre is a deterrent and an acre is a deterrent for some people or for builders, I'm all for it. Keep it that way.
Yeah. Well, you look too, they, like Tracy said, they've been saying that since day one, but they continue to still build. So they're making money. They might not be making as much as they'd like, but they're still in business.
Right.
And two, I'd like to, I mean, I haven't been on the committee a long time, but I haven't seen one development incorporate any kind of open space or some kind of an amenity like Tracy was talking about. You know, they do talk about like, hey, we're providing a good product to, you know, for people to move here, but the amenities aren't there, you know, like trails, those kind of things. None of those are incorporated. So in my mind, it's really, the bottom line is about profit, which is understandable. But on the other side, I would like to see, you know, some of them step up like Tracy indicated and incorporate, make it a more desirable place to be.
You know, the county, Sean Buse years ago created an ordinance that's actually in there as an option, a conservation ordinance. And you know, yeah, set aside some land and we'll give you a little bit of density. It was just a couple of things that we have to consider. Is I don't think it was enough to really attract anybody to it. And the second part of it, when you start talking about leaving open space in Hooper, I mean, you can drive around and see what open ground looks like that's not maintained. And you know, our parks guys, you know, there isn't staffed. Oh, we're going to build this great big green space and who's going to take care of it? And oh, well, maybe a homeowners association. I don't know. How does that go? How long does that last? And so on. So a lot of things to think about, but I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about it anyway.
Tracy, what are impact fees? Remind me what they are.
Well, we have a sewer impact fee, and that one was easy to deal with because we have debt. We're paying back a loan on the sewer system, and so when you do that, the impact fees are hard to challenge. It's about our portion is about a little over $4,000, and then there's an impact fee for Central Weber Sewer to treat our sewer, which is close to 3,000, I think now. That so we have that. We have a Parks and Trails impact fee, which seriously needs to be updated, seriously, because it's been around for a long time, and I think it needs a much better plan. It needs to, you know, be treated a little bit more seriously with the way things are expected in the legislature with the laws and that. And it's old and could certainly be better. I mean, that's what we have right now. You know, there's impact fees at Hooper Water, there's connection fees at Hooper Irrigation and all of that you know, I've kind of lost touch with over time. So
if we were to introduce more impact fees for just new existing homes coming in to builders and to people building houses, is that something as a planning commission we would introduce? What those would look like, what that would entail to basically go towards a certain thing, and then that goes to the city council to be voted upon, or how does that work?
No, so impact fees require a couple of things. First of all, it requires an impact fee facility plan. And that's essentially a master plan for that utility or that system, whatever it is you're going to do. And that requires a significant amount of planning and engineering, okay? Because that plan has to basically describe everything that is going to happen over the next several years, how it's going to be paid for, you know, what you define growth. That has to be defined by a certified financial planner. And there are companies that do that. Zions Bank does that. Anymore, if you're not careful, you know, these are being challenged all over the state. David Church, who is an attorney for the Wasatch Front Regional the League of Cities and Towns. He comes to our city engineers conference every year and just
Can you guys still hear Tracy?
No.
Okay.
Has Mary came back either?
No, I haven't seen her.
Well, Amanda, you're running the meeting. If it falls on you, it's your turn.
That's a frightening thought.
Actually, Bryce is the co-chair, so it's up to him.
No, I like Amanda better. She's got better lighting in her room.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move real quick to another part of my house because for some reason I'm getting kind of shaky at where I'm at. So if I lose you, I'll get right back on. So
Sounds good.
Did Mary come back on, Jacob? You see Mary?
I see the block of her, but I haven't seen her or heard her yet.
Okay.
The phone looks like it's there, that she's trying to connect.
Okay, I finally got my phone connected,
There she is.
but my laptop failed me. So I'm here by phone.
We're just glad you're here.
That room looks the exact same, Tracy.
The room with the view.
Yep.
that's up in the Yukon territories. So
It's pretty.
yep.
You there, Mary?
Okay, I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I gave up on the internet. I'm just using cellular data. Heaven forbid. But I think it's 7 o'clock, isn't it?
6:58, so we still have 2 minutes, or 1.5 minutes.
Okay, I don't know what happened. My internet just decided to die on me. So there we go.
You're using cell data, maybe that'll be an incentive to keep the meeting moving briskly along.
Moving briskly along, people. So, okay. I probably don't have video.
No.
It's true.
Well, sorry, I'm on my phone. Can't do anything about that. So who else do we have with us tonight?
Looks like Scott Carlson, Beverly Bailey, Hooper City Mayor, Brandon Richards, and then Tracy Allen, and then the council. And
Okay.
Sean,
All right.
Bill Francis, our technical guy.
Okay. I wish you were in my house, Bill. I could use you right now. So Bryce, when you give the reverence, will you please bless that I stay on the internet here?
I sure will.
Looks like it's 7 o'clock, so we're ready to get started.
Okay. So we'd like to welcome everyone to our Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 13th. And we would like to begin our meeting with a reverence, which will be given by Commissioner Bryce Wilcox.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to have this meeting tonight and discuss the affairs of our city. We ask that thou be with us, and we thank thee for the freedoms we enjoy in this country, and we ask you to bless those who have a desire to preserve our freedoms, and that we can do our part in our part of the country to preserve freedom. We're grateful for all we have and for our families and the community we live in, and bless that we'll all be able to stay connected tonight and have a productive meeting. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. Since we are not in front of a flag, we will not have the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. But our next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of our Planning Commission meeting for July 9th. Were the commissioners able to read through those minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone see anything that needed to be changed? Seeing none, then we would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting.
This is Jacob. I move that we approve the minutes for the July 9th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Draper to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes for July 9th. Is there any second on that?
I'll second that.
And a second by Amanda. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, seeing that, then that motion passes. And the approval of the minutes have been approved. Okay, the item that we have on our city business tonight is a public hearing. It is for a rezone request from an R1 to an R2 for the H.L. Parker Farms phase number 2 at approximately 6050 South and 6300 West, which comprises 52 acres. Tracy, do you have a presentation that you can give to us?
I do. I'm going to share my screen and get into it here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So this is a rezone request. For Parker Farms. I actually have I used a different address. I didn't look to see exactly what was on the agenda. I just called it 5900 West and 6000 South. The 5900 West being over here on the right-hand side of the screen, and 6000 kind of being through the middle. 6000 South kind of through the middle of the whole thing right here. So what you're looking at is a request for from R1 to R2, 52 acres. And what I've gone ahead and included here, just so you can kind of see how everything fits together. This is the H.L. Parker Farm or Legacy subdivision that was just recently approved. And so there's 8 lots there in the R2 zone. This that I've highlighted here in tan is also in the R2 zone already, so it's not part of this request. And then everything you see here in red from here down to the county line, city boundary, is the request that's on the agenda for tonight. So that's kind of an overall view of the thing. We'll look at our maps again just to get everybody oriented. So this is the overall city generalized future land use map, and this property, and we'll zoom in here in a minute. This property is down here, right along the county line, down in this area down low. And it's a medium density, and we'll talk about that here in just on the land use map. We'll talk about that and show you that updated or up close. Oh. And then here is here's the zoning map. And again, it's right down here in this area, as you're probably already aware. Currently R1, which is our low density residential. So zooming in, over here on the left is the blow up area of the area on the land use, generalized future land use map. And the whole area here is shown as medium density residential, which gives it a right to ask for the R2 zoning. I did put a note here so you wouldn't be confused. All of this is hatched in green is an overlay of the agricultural protection areas that have been requested in the city. The council many years ago said, look, if people are asking, we ought to highlight these on our general land use map so that everybody knows that those parcels, those properties are in agricultural protection. But underneath that is the medium density land use. Wanted to make that clear to you. And then of course, over here on the right, you can see the piece down below here, right at the boundary, is all R1. Everything in the vicinity, at least in the old town and to the north, is in the R2 zone, as is all the properties along the frontage of 5900 South there, including the H.L. Parker Legacy subdivision that was recently approved. So that's the way everything looked. This is based upon the land use map is based upon the decisions of the city back in 2014. And these are the things that you'll be discussing in the upcoming general plan update. But that's where things sit and why they're qualified to ask for the rezone. Questions?
Okay.
Tracy, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, you go ahead, Amanda.
Well, I just had a question. When you were referencing the agricultural protection overlay alongside of the medium density, for clarification for me, so does that medium density, you said that's underneath that, is this rezone that we're looking at tonight, would that medium density override the agricultural protection overlay? I'm a little confused about how that works.
Well, I don't know enough about it in terms of override it. I mean, the agricultural protections on there only as long as this thing is agricultural, and it gives the people that owns this, the Parkers, a right to do a lot of things on the ground that otherwise may not be acceptable in a residential neighborhood. But once this develops as residential, and I believe it's just on there just as an indication that it's there, but it doesn't really override the ability to change this and to use it as residential property is my opinion. So
well, and I'll jump in real quick on that question. Basically, the agricultural overlay is just something that a landowner goes and asks for, so that, as Tracy said, they can do things on there maybe that they couldn't otherwise do. There's also a tax break for lands that are qualifying for that sort of protection, but that would be something that the landowner wanted to have on there. And then of course this request for rezone would indicate they probably want to develop it, which would then negate the agricultural protection use. But I don't know that that's too much of a concern for the commission. That's more of just what the landowner was doing with it prior, perhaps for a tax break or perhaps to use it in some agricultural way. But it likely, of course, would go away once they develop, as Tracy said.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that input. Okay. Is that what you have? Is that the end of your presentation, Tracy?
yes, that's all I needed to say at this point. I can answer questions as they come up, as can Brandon.
Okay, thank you. Since this is a public hearing, do we have a representative here for the Parker Farms? Is there anyone on board with
This
this?
is Scott. This is Scott Carlson. I'm here, and Beverly Bailey is here as well. We appreciate the chance to talk to you about this property and request the rezone. And as Tracy's indicated, it's currently agricultural, and the Parkers have been farming this for many, many years. And it's time to recognize the development that's happening in the area. And so we're looking at opportunity to do that. It'll be a phased development, and it'll occur over the next many years as the market is available to allow for that. We're happy to answer any questions if you have them.
So when you say a phased development, like how many do you propose to do in each phase?
Well, I guess that'll depend on what the market can handle and how many homes we think people will want to buy. Our current hope is to take the left half or the west half there and do that first, and then the easterly half later.
So
Right now, Mary, right now our ordinance in a phase subdivision is limited to 25, unless the planning commission, with discussion with the developer, finds a reason why they think they can support more than that. And that has happened, but we, most of the time it's been 25 max, or sometimes up to close to 30. So
25 doors or
lots.
25 lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Per phase. All right. And Mr. Carlson, did you have a time frame kind of in mind, some kind of a timeline?
We're hoping to move forward on the first phase as quickly as possible. That may take some time. The legacy subdivision there, the 8 lots up above, that just got approved, started 3 years ago. We hope that this next phase won't take that long.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the Planning Commission for Mr. Carlson?
Mr. Carlson, are you planning on just doing custom homes in there, using one particular home builder? Just anybody can buy a lot and build? How you plan on using it?
Well, all of those options are still being considered. It'll come down to costs, and if somebody can buy a block of lots, then we'll be willing to consider that.
Okay, thank you.
And would you be willing to sell just a single individual lot?
Yes, would you like one? I've got 8 right up there ready to go.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission for our representative? Okay. Seeing none, this is a public meeting, and so we will open it up now for public comments. If there's anyone online who would like to make a comment, please speak up and keep it to relevant facts and about 3 minutes long.
Hi, Mary. I don't have anyone in the chat room who's looking to wait to make public comment, but I do have one emailed public comment that I forwarded to everybody earlier this week, and so I'll go ahead and read that just for record.
Thank you.
So this is a public comment by Sandy Mollock. She is concerned about the rezone from R1 to R2. She has 4 points here. 1, please advise when the environmental impact study of the new development will be available. Our concern leads to air quality, water pollution, deforestation, biodiversity, and waste management. 2, police, first aid, and fire protection. Right now, 5900 South is already flooded with speeding vehicles. Hooper does not have its own police force or fire department. There has been an alarming rate of increasing crime in the area, i.e. break-ins, vandalism, property theft, etc. Adding 52 acres of new homes will do nothing but exacerbate an already declining quality of life for Hooper citizens. How are we going to be protected? 3, traffic management. What will be done with our narrow streets? We do not have sidewalks. There are woefully few stop signs on very long stretches of 30-mile-per-hour zones, which already leads to people regularly breaking the speed limit. There are pedestrians walking, bicycling, etc. on the road with little to no enforcement of traffic laws. A new housing development with nearly 100 homes will make this a very dangerous neighborhood for children to play, walk, ride bikes, skateboard, etc. How will we be protected? For those of us directly affected, A, has this land been sold? B, what would be a proposed timeline before construction begins? How long does it take to obtain permits, etc. after the property is sold? C, we will of course all lose our views, property values will decrease, crime, traffic, pollution will increase. It is imperative those of us affected are kept abreast with the timeline of events. As tax-paying citizens in Hooper, we would like to know if there is a plan to stop the building. We are already no longer a peaceful small town. This 52-acre lot on top of 8 homes already set in action as the neighborhood has directly affected our quality of life and property values. Thank you for your consideration, Matthew and Sandra Mullock.
Okay. Thank you, Shauna. Appreciate you reading that into the record. Is there any other public comments out there? Seeing none, we're going to come back to the Planning Commission for discussion.
As we've discussed earlier in the work meeting, you know, we've formed these committees because the general plan is going to be reopened and looked at. And I know that we've already started doing some opinion polls throughout the community to try and gather feedback. It's my understanding that we have, there are some studies that are going to be done as far as transportation and the effects on our roads. I'm not sure where we're at on the status of those things, but it's my opinion that until we have that resolved, all of those things resolved with the general plan, now that we've already put that in motion, that as a planning commission, we shouldn't take any further action as far as approving any rezones or recommending their approval of rezones to city council. I just think it's really difficult to make a decision and to come up with a plan when things are still so fluid and moving. So that's my input.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner Prince. Any other discussion from our council members?
I don't know how that rolls. We may need to ask Brandon, city attorney, how that goes. I don't know if we can stop. I mean, I know we started initial discussions, but how long, one question, how long do we plan on having this general plan open for, and how long are we going to be discussing it? Are we talking 6 months, a year, etc.? I don't know if we can tell property owners that they can't sell their land and do whatever just because we have the plan open. Brandon, do you have any ideas on that?
Well, yeah, and you make a good point. I think a couple of things. I think that the applicant is entitled to some kind of a decision on it, whether it's to recommend a denial because of the fluid nature of the plan opening up, rather than just, you know, continuing it indefinitely. I wouldn't recommend continuing it indefinitely. I think they're entitled to some sort of a decision on it. I also don't know that you would want to put it off for a year to make a decision on it. I think certainly you could, you know, over a period of months, you know, take a look at the general plan and then want to make some kind of address it somehow. But anyway, I don't think you should table it indefinitely. I think you either ought to recommend an approval or recommend a denial based upon the general plan being open, and send it up to the council one way or the other. And that is unless the applicant wants to hold off and wait until more discussion happens on the general plan. But if the applicant wants something to happen, I think they're entitled to some kind of a decision on it rather than just tabling it. So
What's our timeline, Mary?
Well, we've got our committees formed. We're making active work on those. We do plan to meet with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. I've asked my committees to try and have some feedback to an advisory committee that the city has formed that consists of the mayor and members of the planning commission, members of city council, and citizens. I'd like to have our committees have their feedback back to us by the end of August. And we plan to meet with Wasatch Front Regional Council sometime in September, who will give us guidance on how to proceed with the wishes that we've been able to accumulate from the city, from our citizenship. Then we will formulate some plans, A, B, and C per se, and show those to the advisory committee and to the public, try and get public comment from those. So timeline wise, we're rolling. We've got an advisory committee formed. Like I said, by the end of the month, I want to have reports back from all of our planning commission members and their different committees that they've been assigned. And we plan on meeting with Wasatch Front Regional Council in September. And then we can, we'll have a better idea of time from that point. We'll go forward from there.
And then we have the general plan open, public meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So we're talking what, 6-7 months?
I hate to be pessimistic, but the last time a year was optimistic. By the time the council and the planning commission, it felt like they had taken enough public input, and then just trying to hash out decisions internally. It was a long process.
And I'm not being too, I don't think I'm being overly optimistic by saying that, because we've been down this road once, we kind of know some of the pitfalls to avoid. It is a bigger issue, but we've got to work harder on it. And hopefully we learned from the last time around, and maybe it won't take us quite a year, but I think it's a 9-month minimum.
Well, it seems to me that if we, like the general land use map that we have right now is the current law and code for the city. And to say that now that we're discussing it, that we have no guidelines or law until we close the plan again, means that we can go an indefinite time without particular guidelines to define what it is that we're doing. I would say for now, at least my opinion is, we have a general land use map that we're currently going by. Let's go by that until we have a new one.
But we can't make a new one when we're working with a moving target, because things change every month.
And those wheels have already been put in motion. So the people that I've reached out to get their feedback regarding the rezones and different areas of Hooper, what we want to see that look like, they're looking at what we currently have in place. But just, for instance, tonight, if we recommend approval for this is 52 lots, or 52 acres, excuse me. It could be, 100 homes or however many are going to go into this area. That's a significant change. Even over on 4,000, all of the development that's going on at 5,500 off of 4,000 South. I think that just because we can doesn't mean we should necessarily. And if we have and maybe, I don't know if this information is correct, but it's my understanding that we've commissioned a study for transportation and the effects of this, the influx in traffic and all of that on the community out here. There's safety that needs to be taken into consideration, the increase in traffic, all of these things that I feel like people are concerned with, and the feedback that I'm getting. I just feel like it's going to be really difficult for us to put a plan together when everything is still changing. And if we've already put the ball in motion and we're looking at making those changes now, I feel like we need to halt, at least postpone any further changes that are going to make it harder for us to decide what we're doing. If things are constantly changing, how do we gauge where we're at?
Well, two things, and Brandon, you can help with this. Is one,
I can weigh in too, so go ahead.
The laws of the land, how we do it now. I mean, if we're going to have, like this year, we're going to have election this year with the president, right? And even if a different president gets in November, I mean, there's a whole month lag time until the new laws of the land and the people come in and take effect. And so I kind of agree with Jacob that, one, I think, Brandon, we did try a few months ago, we tried to put a moratorium on building, and the answer that came back was, no, you can't put a moratorium on it because basically we need another law in place to uphold the law as far as the land use map and zoning map. And I mean, we do have the law right now. This is what it is until one is voted upon about what the new city council, even though it may be in flux and moving a little bit. I mean, I don't know how we can say, no, you got to wait until the new one's done. When the new one's approved, absolutely we go by it. But until that point, I think we have to bide what we had. And I don't know, Brandon, what's your thoughts there?
I did. Well, I'll say my 2 cents and let Tracy jump in too. I think it's all case specific. I think if you had a rezone come in front of you and you felt like the impact was low enough to the point where it wouldn't impact what you're trying to do with your new general plan study, or maybe there wasn't an issue beyond that you were concerned with, that might be one thing. If you've got another one in front of you, such as this one that's larger, and it creates more of a ripple effect or an impact to where you would want to wait and see what happened with the general plan, I think you're within your right to do that. But that being said, you are right. This is the general land use map as it stands right now. And so, like I said earlier, I don't think that it would be appropriate to table it for that amount of time. I think you would have to make a recommendation one way or the other and base it on some facts to support it and send it up to the council to look at either way. So I don't know if you have a differing view or more to add to that, Tracy.
Well, I want to comment on a couple of things that were said. There is currently nothing underway to do any transportation planning other than a request for funding. And if we don't get that grant, I had to talk the mayor into, I didn't have to talk him into it. I had to explain to the mayor that we have a chance to get funding, and hopefully we do. But if that doesn't happen, where's that $50,000-$60,000 going to come from? Secondly, I guess my feeling is if this were out in the middle of nowhere where we didn't already have that, I mean that center block of this map right here, that's been there since we incorporated. Okay, that we brought that directly over from the county, and just the way that is, and so I'm like, well, this is, if it were out nowhere connected, I probably wouldn't be, I also wouldn't think to give it consideration, but it's just an extension of what's already in the area there. And some of the lots that were created in that Mayfield subdivision along 5900 got to take advantage of what we brought in from the county as half-acre lots. The other thing I'd mention is, in an R2 zone, 52 acres is not going to generate much more than, well, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but probably 75 homes. Okay? The way our ordinance is set up, it's not density based. You don't get 2 lots to the acre. You still have to have 100-foot frontage and 20,000 square feet and roads, and that never generates 2 lots to the acre. It ends up being more like 1.5. And the difference between that and just staying R1 is probably 30 lots. Okay, I mean that may sound like a lot, but they could probably get 45 or 40 or so on an acre and 70 on half acre, and just trying to make everything fit. So I just wanted to give the other side of things, just so you can have more to consider there. So.
I appreciate it.
Okay, can I? Oh, go ahead, Manny.
I want to talk over top of you. Sorry.
I'll give my 2 cents. I think, it's not necessarily this particular piece of property. I mean, obviously at some point it's going to be R2, but it's a culmination of what's going on in our city. I mean, you look at the building that's happening right now, I bet you could count 600 plus homes that are there. I'm leaning towards, yes, we have a plan in place now, but I think it would be wise to to look at the impact, and if we do get that grant, let that go through, and not table it until the plans, till the master plan's complete, but at least give it some consideration and maybe look at it and see what's really going to be impacted. But there again, I think it's a culmination. It's not just this piece of property, but it's just happening. We're probably growing faster than we can or we should.
So do you see it really again, I'm playing a little devil's advocate. Do you really see it where you would come back and say, look at that piece of property and somehow reverse the land use?
What do you mean reverse? Like change?
Well, right now it's a medium density,
Right,
and
right.
and there's some concern about what that means. Looking at the general plan, does that mean, okay, we're going to go through and start taking pieces out and making them low density again? Was that what I'm hearing?
No, that's not what you're hearing. Obviously everything around it is R2, and so it kind of makes sense. But my point is, it's not just that piece; it's a culmination. Obviously this is going to be developed, but I think we need to take a breath here for a minute and get some more thought into our, what's happening. But no, I understand your point, and I understand Nathan's, but I think it would be prudent for us to maybe take a month or 2 or 3. They're not going to develop it in that amount of time anyway. Obviously not a year, but give it some time, and let's see what happens.
I'd like to respond to a couple of the points that Tracy made, if I could. I know that from what you said, the transportation study, we've asked for the funding. We don't know if we're going to get that yet. But regardless of whether or not we receive that funding, even if it's only 70 to 75 homes on top of the other homes and the other development that's going on all over Hooper, all of that is going to increase the impact on our community as far as safety, the amount of traffic on our roads. I think it's something that needs to be taken into consideration. I know you mentioned that this plan, this is how it was brought over. This is how things were decided back in 2014. There's been a lot of development that's gone on, and this plan said, well, yes, people can ask to go from R1 to R2, but it's still a request. It's something that we, as a planning commission, I feel we have a responsibility to our community to listen to what they're saying and to what some of their concerns are. This Ms. Mullock that sent in her comments, I feel like she had some valid concerns. And where this is something that we're currently working on, trying to come up with a new plan, I feel like it would at least be fair to wait until we've met with the representative from the Wasatch Regional Council in September and get their feedback, where they've done this before, and I think they'll be able to give us some guidance and some education so that we can make an educated decision. I just feel like this, I know Tracy mentioned, maybe only 70 to 75 homes, but if you have 2 drivers, adults, and then you have their children, teenage drivers, you have to think about the impact that that's going to have. And I feel like it would be fair, and I want to be considerate of the developer as well and the property owner. But I think we also we owe it to the community that we're supposed to be representing to think about it a little bit more and to meet with somebody who's able to give us a little bit of guidance. So I would feel more comfortable if maybe we put this off, not for a year, but maybe after we've met with them in September, got their feedback, and then we'd have a better idea of where we're going and what.
And I appreciate those comments. One thing I will say though, that just having a transportation master plan will not specifically address the traffic issues associated with this parcel. Okay, and that comes only after the development is planned in a phasing plan, and we ask for a traffic impact study to really determine what that is and what offsite improvements might be needed relative to address that. And so, yeah, well, I mean, we'll have an idea of what traffic on some of our arterials and collectors look like, but it won't specifically address every parcel. And so, we won't know that for this parcel. I'm just saying, until there is a traffic study associated with a actual lot layout and road layout that we accept for this one.
Do you agree, Tracy, that at some point though we have to say, okay, we're just gonna put on hold the approval of any more rezones while we're working on this general plan. I know it might not be just this particular subdivision, but it's also the precedents that we're setting. Okay, well, when do we draw that line and say, okay, we need to look at everything as a whole before we go ahead and approve any more rezones, considering this could change?
You have that right, absolutely. And I would support that if that's the way you go. I'm just trying to represent, you know, some other thoughts. That's all. So.
What's Mary, what's the status of us in schools as far as, I mean, is there any communication between us and the school board as far as, I mean, we're overloading Hooper Elementary by a long shot. Is there any communication going on with Weber County School District?
Nathan, I have not established a line of communication with the school districts, but I really think that that's something that needs to be done. And honestly, I will take that upon myself to find out what our Weber School District has plans for growth, how they would be able to accommodate the growth. Are they looking at another elementary school in this area? Or are they looking to build a junior high closer by? I've heard rumor too that there may be a high school in the future, but I will definitely look into that and be able to. So we're more enlightened on what the Weber School District has to say about growth in this area.
Okay. Well, I think we've had great discussion. I think all we can do is put it to a vote and then let the city council decide on what's best. Correct? Is that? And that's what we're doing with this, correct? Recommending it to the city council, or are we just ending it here?
Well, I think you have two options. You either recommend approval or denial to the city council, thus putting it in front of them, or you could vote to table it, but you need to table it to a date certain. You can't just table it with no date. So if you were going to table it for a month, I don't know when you're meeting with the regional council in September, but I mean, if you were going to table it, it would have to be a reasonable amount of time and with a date certain to where you're going to look at it again, or you do need to take some action on it, either approve or deny, and send it to the city council.
So if we recommend, we make a recommendation to the city council one way or the other. If it's approval, so be it. If it's denial, then the applicant still has a course of appeal, right? Is that correct?
Well, if you whatever you recommend, whether it's denial or approval, and specifically if you're going to recommend a denial, you would want to delineate some supporting reasons for that so the council has something to look at. But either way, they're going to look at it. It's a recommendation that they take from you, and then they'll make the final decision. And yes, the developer would have an opportunity at that time to speak before the council as well. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your input there.
Sure.
Okay, is there
Mary,
any other?
If you'd like it.
Any other?
Mary, I was just going to offer, if you'd like, I'm happy to respond to any of those questions.
Who is this?
That's Scott Carlson.
Scott Carlson.
Oh, okay. Well, Scott, the public comment section of this has been closed. So we're just discussing it among the commission members. And I was just going to ask if there was any other discussion among the commission members. Do any of you feel like you want to address Mr. Carlson with other questions?
Are we talking about that letter that was sent, or is that what you're talking about?
Well, I think at some point in time, it would be good if the developers would reply to these. I mean, I don't know how to respond to the Moloch concerns because we don't know about an environmental impact study.
There won't be one.
And so there will not be one. So they
we
won't
don't require an environmental assessment or environmental impact study. It's an agricultural field. You know, and we require a soil study and a traffic study but we don't, I have no idea what environmental issues. I mean, I heard a list of them, but
Yeah, you know, they were talking about air quality and
require
water
that.
pollution. Yeah, you know, air quality, water pollution, waste management, those types of things. I understand that, Tracy, that there won't be an environmental impact study done, so we really can't answer the MOLEC's concerns on that. We know about police and fire protection,
Sure.
and we just need to have greater enforcement as we increase our, population. We're going to have more cars on the roads, and which results in needing either our own fire department and our own police department, or getting more coverage from Weaver County Sheriff.
So what's gonna be what?
Same thing with traffic management. I'm just going through the questions here on the MOLEC letter. Same thing with traffic management. We all are aware of pedestrians and cyclists and bringing more stuff in. They'll have to put in curb, gutter, and sidewalks wherever they have frontage, but that's not going to take it down all of the roads. And their fourth question's about, has the land been sold? Well, that's really nothing we can answer for the MOLECs, because it's public record if they want to go look it up, but it isn't something we can talk about. And Mr. Carlson said, you know, timeline wise, it's going to take a bit of time to get things going. And then they want to know how long it takes to obtain permits. Well, they will need to go and ask someone how long it takes. And so I don't know how to answer any of the questions on the MOLEC letter other than that. Other than I can understand that they're dissatisfied with having another 70 homes built at this time.
So my question would be, if we go the route of tabling it, what's the time frame that we'd be comfortable with? Because Brandon's indicated that we would need to give a definite time frame. What's 60, 90 days? I don't know. What's the number?
My initial response would be November, before we could be really clear on where we're going with the rezoning, with the new zoning maps and general plan and all of those things. Maybe sooner, but initially I'm feeling like if we table it, it would need to be out to at least November.
That's kind of what I had written down here as November 12th, as far as just revisiting it again, so that we've had a chance to at least discuss with our representative from the Wasatch Front Regional Council, just so that we have a little bit more guidance and input, and we can make an educated decision, and take into account, you know, the hardship that this could place on the developer and on the landowner. We don't want to put it out too far, but I think it's only fair that we try to do our best at educating ourselves before we make a decision on this.
Right.
Well, I think we can vote on it. I think
our other, well,
great things has come up tonight.
The other option, like Mr. Richards recommended, is that if we as a planning commission choose to deny this request, they still can take it forward to city council and appeal it there. Right. But we need to tell the city council why we feel it should be denied.
Well, I'm of the opinion, and this is where I stand on the whole thing. I think the land use map is law until it's changed. I mean, gun laws are gun laws until they're changed as a law, and they're done that way. I mean, they can talk about the gun laws all they want, but I can still buy a gun up to the point that they change the law, and then that law takes effect. And I don't think personally that you can just say, well, hold off, property owner, hold off. You know, this is the law of the land, but we're thinking about changing it. Maybe after we have the meetings with the higher people in the county, and we get to that point and they give us some more direction that way. But we're so far out, I have a hard time saying you can't develop property that's the law of the land now, and we got to wait till we decide what we're going to do.
But is there a reason why why it's worded the way that it is, that they can ask for a rezone. That's not a guaranteed approval of that rezone.
Yeah,
Aren't there
I agree. I do agree with what Amanda's saying. I think to call it maybe the law of the land might be a little bit too strict. It's a generalized future land use map. I think once something is rezoned, then it's rezoned in accordance with our ordinance. But our general plan is a guidance document, and again it's generalized, and it gives a right for the request, but you also have a right to give consideration to all impacts and make a decision accordingly. I never really felt like, and maybe Brandon can weigh in, that just because it's there on the map, it has to happen immediately. And I tried to give both sides just a while ago on behalf of the developer but at the same time, that's the way I feel about the map too. So
Right. Well, the map is there as a guidance. It's not set in stone. It's the guide that we have.
Yeah, and I would agree with Tracy, and that was the reasoning behind I was saying if you do recommend a denial, put forth the reasons why, so that the council has something to reference it off of. I also don't particularly see an issue with tabling it until November. I think there's a basis for it that you've outlined, and I don't think it's unreasonable amount of time, and it's a date certain. So I think legally speaking, I think you're okay with either one of those, however you want to vote.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other discussion that you want to go through?
Oh,
Mary, is it too late? Is it too late to address any of the chat?
Well, since this is a Zoom meeting and it's kind of different, normally we would, public comment has been closed, but commissioners, would you like to hear some of the chat that's been going on?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's only a comment from Scott Carlson. Would it be possible to recommend approval of the west portion and table the east portion? So that was put out there. You can address that, and maybe the answer is the same. So.
Commissioners?
Wouldn't it have to be submitted to us that way, where it's been submitted for the entire parcel? I mean, I don't even know if that's legal for what, Brandon, what's the?
Yeah, are we within the rights to modify their request and just say it's only this west portion and not the whole thing?
Well, that's come up before. I would think what would have to happen would be, since you're making a recommendation to the council, if you chose to do it that way, I would think part of the recommendation would be that before it got in front of the council, the applicant would amend his rezone petition to indicate that, so that it would be clear once it got in front of the council, that's what it was. And I wouldn't have a problem with that, but as long as it was contingent upon that application being amended. And I don't think that we would need them to redo the whole thing and pay the fee all over again, but to correct it or amend it before it got in front of the council, I think is the way we've done it before when something like that happens.
So then we would be denying the request as it is today, but recommending that the city council look at an amended request?
Yeah, essentially. And I mean, you could do it one of two ways. I mean, if you wanted to, you could say, come back next month with that amended request, so that, and then we'll make a decision on that. If you wanted to do it that way, you could do it that way too. I think that's kind of up to you, however comfortable you feel. I think it wouldn't cause an issue if you decided to do that now, as long as the applicant amended that before it went in front of the council, so they had an accurate representation of what the request was.
I kind of stand by what I said before. If we're going to move forward with rezoning and looking at the changes for the general plan, I would be of the mindset that we kind of halt, at least until our November meeting, doing anything like that until we've had a chance to talk to our representative from the Wasatch Regional Council and talk about it as a planning commission, talk about it with the city council. And I personally would be more in favor of tabling this until then. I don't see us denying it right now. I just think we maybe need to put it off. And, we just the 8th on Mr. Carlson said, this is going to be down the road a little bit. So I don't feel that this is going to cause any undue hardship on them to put this off until November, and let us kind of collect ourselves and our thoughts and get some feedback from the community and see what we want to go in before we approve anything.
I think too, we need to send something to the city council as clean as possible. So I'm kind of with Amanda on that it should be clean and not kind of chopped up.
Clear and concise. I agree, because that's what we've tried to be all year long, is clear and concise with what we recommend to city council without any ifs or buts attached to it. So is there any other council discussion? If not, then I would entertain a motion on this application.
I'll go ahead and motion that we table this until we've had a chance to meet with the Wasatch Front Regional Council representative and discuss this a little bit further. And we can revisit it again at the November 12th Planning Commission meeting. And this is in regards to the rezone H.L. Parker Farms Phase 2, approximately 6050 South, 6300 West, 52 acres.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Prince to table this request until the November 12th meeting. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
And we have a second from Commissioner Wilcox. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So Commissioner Draper, is there any opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Platt is opposed. Okay, let it go on record that's how the vote went down. That is the conclusion of our city business for tonight. Is there any new business that anyone would like to bring up? None? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion now that we adjourn. Anybody want to adjourn tonight?
I want to adjourn. I will motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion from Commissioner Prince that we adjourn this meeting. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that. It's Jacob.
Thank you, Commissioner Draper. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed to
Hello.
adjourning?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Brandon.